Welcome, everyone, again to the Foally of Man. My name is Chris. With me here today,
Robert.
And today we'll be looking at Chapter 42, Into Fire and Darkness of Fallout Equestria.
You sound like William Shatner having a stroke.
Aye, but the pineapples in the backyard stay out, the plants kill. So,
we should probably say, welcome to the Foally of Man. This is a show where we review the fan fiction Fallout Equestria, which is a combination of Fallout and My Little Pony. Chris is a Brony, and I'm not. I doubt that there's people who are tuning in for the first time, but if you are, thank you, and welcome. To your doom.
We thought so much of City 17. Okay, so in the last chapter, we stopped with our valiant heroes valiantly crashing into the valiant ground in front of a valiantly colored tree. A yellow and pink tree, guarded over by a stone rabbit statuette. So, it's an interesting chapter to start off with. It's just they realize that the tree is Fluttershy.
Yeah,
and that she was converted by the killing joke.
But they don't realize it until Zenith is attacked. Right?
Yeah, they didn't realize it because the tree is almost talking to them, almost on the wind.
Seems to be whispering on the wind.
Yeah. Get out, get away, run. And then which has a hilarious moment of Zenith poking Angel Bunny.
Falls over.
The Doom Bunny.
Doom Bunny.
But so the reason this is weird, this chapter is everything's a mile a minute. It is so beat. Making notes for this was a pain in the ass. I don't remembering this chapter as holy shit, this is almost manic.
Well, it's also a question of what can go wrong, does go wrong.
Yes.
Nothing ever goes to plan, particularly Calamity's plans.
Yes.
And that's kind of something that we touch on in this chapter as well. So let's talk a little bit more about Killing Joke. So it's Zenith who recognizes what it is, but it's based off of Poison Joke.
Poison Joke. It's a magical kind of element that somehow tunes into your past. It recognizes
something you've said,
or something that you've mentioned, or something you've alluded to, and it makes a play on that, or a play on your characterization. In the show, Fluttershy, for instance, suddenly got a very, very, very deep voice, like bass. She sounded like Barry White practically.
Yeah, Flutter Guy.
Applejack turned into Tiny Jack. I can't remember what the joke was. Rainbow Dash couldn't control herself anymore. So
is that when
Rainbow
Pinkie
Crash.
Pie becomes Pinkamena?
No. Then
what was Pinkie Pie's?
Pinkie Pie's was her tongue swells up to where she can't talk.
Oh no.
So Pinkie Pie can't express herself.
I told you there are times when I think about which pony I would be, and there's days where I feel more like Pinkie Pie. If I'm honest.
And Twilight Sparkle's horn loses its magic and goes floppy. And starts flopping around like some sort of dongle or a dingus or
a penis.
Penis! It looks like a penis! But that's the Poison Joke. Killing Joke obviously does so in a manner to destroy or maim. To cursedly act against something.
Yeah, and so when it attacks Zenith, it flays her skin open.
Well, yeah, it removes her stripes.
Right.
Because she mentioned, or somebody mentioned, if my stripes had been removed and replaced by blood or cut open or something. And so it...
Well, no, she said that it would be easier for her to blend in if she didn't have any stripes.
Yeah, so it just removed her stripes.
Yeah.
But removed everything attached to her stripes.
Yeah.
Clean out her body.
And she seems to realize what it is before they do.
Oh, yeah. Where she says, get away, pushes Velvet out of the way, and all the Killing Joke has to do is brush up against her, and its magic affects her instantly.
Yeah. And so she immediately jumps into a giant gaping wound. She's bleeding all over the place.
Yeah, passes out from blood loss almost immediately as well.
So Pip does some bloodmancy.
Yes.
What would you call it?
It's actually
sanguimancy.
Yeah, there actually is a term that I don't think he's
Blood
used
magic?
in this,
Yeah.
but blood magic actually does have a term, but I can't remember what it is. Where she makes a blood blade and starts hacking at the plants.
No. She makes a blood cast.
Oh, that's right.
No, she doesn't make blood blades.
I got confused. She grabs the blades from Reggie, with Cage's blades, and uses those to cut them apart. That's right.
Yeah, but she makes a blood cast, and of course, what's his name? The new magic user,
Life
Bloom. He's like, well, that's some really worrying magic there. I've never seen that spell before. What the hell is that?
What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
So on their way out from escaping the lovely plants,
Wonderbolts!
The Wonderbolts show up, causing even more problems. And this, I mean, there's a whole. I hate to go off the beat here because I'm practically reciting the entire chapter because it's literally one at a time. But there are the cockatrices. They petrify one of the Wonderbolts. They also manage to petrify Pyrelite. And so, and obviously I'm doing this out of order because everything's kind of interconnected and it's woven and it's really hard to follow.
Velvet gets scary
because she just takes the thing and starts beating it around and says, "Fix my bird."
Well, she anesthetizes it.
Yeah.
And then basically threatens it.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to fix this.
You're going to fix this right now, or I swear to God.
Yeah, and I'll release you.
You know what's worse than death? Sodomy.
Right. Well, and they actually wind up de-stoning or depetrifying the Wonderbolt and using the memory spell on them. Life Bloom's able to do that.
Yes.
And they don't fight back. They just shoot up into the air.
Yeah, they leave because they do this 3 times to 3 of the Wonderbolts, and the last one says, "That's a lot to think about," and then leaves.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. You've only been lied to your entire life.
Hey, surprise. In the meanwhile, little Pip loses part of her cutie mark. It gets, I think, burned off.
She gets shot in the flank with
a
magical energy weapon.
And so it gets burned off. And she has a little bit of a childish freak-out moment.
It's kind of an overreaction.
But I can kind of understand, not because I empathize with her, but I can understand from the aspect of her psyche is just a little bit to the edge.
Do you think they did
just gone off the deep end?
Do you think they did it to it's a wrong term, but to humanize Pip again?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Because Pip you have to show the character out of control because you start tearing away little bits. And this is actually how it's described in the chapter. From her perspective, you start tearing away little bits at somebody, taking away little parts of them, whole parts of them. I mean, she lost her leg. She has it now, but she lost her leg. She knows that she's lost her leg. She knows that she's no longer fully equine due to the mutation. So it's all compounding psychologically. Her pit buck is now part of her leg, and she's trying to deal with all this. And then finally, the one thing that her cultural raising, her milieu, just find as one of their greatest aspects, their cutie mark, is torn from her partially. And so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And she fucking snapped.
Well, it's not entirely out of character if you think about how long it took her to get her cutie mark.
Yeah. And like I was saying, the milieu is that is the greatest aspect that the pony can actually ever have. That's
right.
The one. Because think about this, the culture and society of the stable. You're born into this world where the only thing you have to look forward to is figuring that out. And after that, you work for the rest of your life and die.
Right.
So that's a very important aspect of your raising. So losing it is losing part of yourself, at least for her.
Anyways, Pip's freaking out.
Yeah, so,
really freaking out.
So Life Bloom conks her out with another anesthetization spell, which
pisses her off more, but she can't move.
And then she goes into a little bit of a crying fit because, no panic attack ever. There's never a panic attack without crying. You have
of course, just when they think they're safe, that's when the hellhounds come back.
Yes. And the hellhounds, they realize after taking out one by way of transforming it, or the Killing Joke transforms it into a pony.
Which 2 of the hellhounds chase that one off. Then they come across a 4th hellhound that's an albino hellhound.
Yes,
wearing a helmet.
Yeah, they were all wearing helmets. They got the helmet off the one that was a pony and realized that the Enclave were controlling them.
Yeah, broadcasting a signal to agitate them.
Yeah.
But it's the albino hellhound that causes them the most trouble because it has basically a magical rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how. Oh, Pip shoots it in the gun, and that causes it to malfunction and explode.
Yeah.
And essentially blows one of the limbs off of the hellhound. Which, of course, now Velvet has to save this thing.
Because...
reasons.
At least she's consistent in my disposition of hating her. So they... God, it's just there's so much to go over. They managed to... They're constantly at threat of the oncoming fires that are from Red Eye's army. And as they're making their way through, somehow Red Eye caught wind of this whole thing.
Of course. He's literally watching all the time.
Yeah, he's got his ears to the ground all the time, so he knows what at least about the Wonderbolts coming down, and he's already had a plan for the Enclave. Because the very second the first one came down, he's like, "Well, shit, I got to do something. I don't know if I can amass a force to fight this directly, so we got to come up with something to actually destroy it.
I need a plan. They're too advanced."
Yeah, so he sends out a rocket, which lands on the ground and gives a projection of himself, because of course he does. Fucking egomaniac. It's all in character. It's ridiculous, but it's in character. And he sends out an EMP wave that kind of knocks everything out, attempting to disable the suits of the Wonderbolts, and then brings in some alicorns to attempt to...
to trap them in a shield.
Yeah, to trap them. And then attempt to convert Pip.
Not convert, to control.
Yeah.
They invade her mind.
Yeah.
They're all the green ones. They're all the highly...
magically, talented ones.
Psychic. Yeah. Basically, the psychic ones. And they're in her brain, telling her to pick up her gun and kill the unicorn. Mm-hmm. Kill the unicorn, meaning Velvet Remedy.
Yeah, and
so Pip's there, like hovering the gun, aiming it right at Velvet's head, and Velvet's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and so scares the shit out of Velvet. But Pip finally manages to knock them all out of her mentally,
and shoot one.
Literally, as she described it, she managed to put enough bullets into the brain to decapitate.
Yeah,
the alicorn.
She said the first 3 probably killed it. The rest of it. Nearly decapitated it. But the other thing to keep in mind is I believe, I can't remember when the message comes, but one of the last alicorns essentially says she passed. But it should be noted that when the alicorn is invading her mind,
kkat says the Wonderbolts do the EMP to take out the missile in its pay.
We were getting to it.
Yeah.
But anyways, when they are invading her mind, they're not the elements of harmony, but the ponies.
Yes. The Ministry statuettes.
The Ministry statuettes come to her defense again, but this time Pip's the one who forces them out. Mm-hmm. She describes it as a dog pile laying on top of her, the little pony in her head. Like, if you remember crushed under their weight.
That really bad CG scene from the second Matrix movie? Except Agent Smith is alicorns. There's also the one Wonderbolt that does the orbital friendship cannon move, where she flies straight up, comes straight down, and pretty much makes an explosion on the ground, which, as I've shown here, is actually from the show.
Really?
Yes.
Is this something that Rainbow Dash could do?
Yeah.
So this is different than a sonic rainbow.
Yeah, she wanted Applejack needed to remove one of her barns, and so Rainbow Dash physically removed the barn by way of whatever the hell she did.
Pegasi have some crazy magic.
Yeah,
they have some crazy ass magic.
Yeah, well, Earth ponies have some crazy ass magic when it comes to growing. So it's just however it works.
I do want to touch on one thing. Shinigami Eros says, I like how this stream is categorized under gaming. Honestly, I don't know how else we'd categorize it. If you have a better suggestion.
It's a game and a show, which is turning into a book technically. So,
and I don't think book reviews are real hot on YouTube. Yeah, them spicy furry memes. But anyways, the Wonderbolts actually put on display a whole bunch of other powers that we haven't seen. I mean, there's all these aerial maneuvers that just like Calamity can't compete with.
Yeah, Calamity's not as good a flyer. He's a better shooter, but not as good a flyer.
And that's the thing too. He's in fighting the Wonderbolts. He's not really fighting.
No, he's attempting to pull them away from each other so that Life Bloom can attempt to use his memory spell, technically Twilight's memory spell, on them. One
of the important things that we haven't discussed, it's not in the script here, is it Deadshot who's the one who hates him? Gutshot, that's right.
Oh yeah, Gutshot has a personal beef with Calamity, probably from the
he was second place.
Yeah,
he was always second place in the shooting competitions.
Yes,
and here he is, a Wonderbolt, and yet
still not as good.
Right. And Calamity's like, I don't think there's any way for us to change this one's mind.
No,
he hates me.
Yeah.
But Calamity does best him.
Yeah.
He bests him in the air.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it's something. Life Bloom does do the memory spell on 3 of them, as I said before. And so we're down to the last 2, which is by the end of the chapter, Gutshot, who hates him, and the other one that I can't remember the name of, that is apparently Calamity's brother's former lover.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, it kind of makes sense with the Enclave as population control.
Yeah.
To promote, I guess to support, like it. Well, not that they'd be unaccepting, but there'd be more of an incentive, because if you think about it, they incentivize having children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're somebody who is high ranking, but you're never going to have any children because you're a homosexual, then that could potentially be somebody else who's.
Oh, I know. I meant it was weird because I didn't know what the relationship would be then. Because we've kind of exposed Calamity's brothers out as not being as bad as he painted them initially, at least fully.
Right.
So that they may not be as bad. They may be a little bit more withdrawn about this. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Well, it's like we found in the last chapter with his brother. He's like, we were kids.
Yeah.
Calamity's harboring this deep resentment with his brothers, but the other brothers are like, we were kids.
Well,
we were brothers.
I think it's understood that his resentment, it comes from an extension of him hating his father.
Yeah.
And he sees his brothers as an extension of his father. So it's this paternal issue.
Well, because he's the odd one out.
Yeah, and he never knew his mother. The other ones could see his mother and remember barely his mother.
Well, and they remember, she was the best part of their dad.
Yeah, and they link together him with her death. And although the brothers don't hold any resentment fully for it, because they understand his father did, and his father took it out on him every chance he could get. Yeah. So it's understandable that Calamity would be the way he is. Yes, I wrote down here, Red Eye attempts to capture Pip using some very pent-up alicorns. What could he promise you? What could he promise you? He promised us getting some!
Yeah, it does. Pip, that's one of the things Pip is surprised by. It's like, why are the alicorns helping Red Eye?
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit to them being with him?
Yeah. And Red Eye promised them males. And this is something that I've discussed before. Somebody asked, what's the complexity to this? And it's the fact that, so alicorns are made, they're manufactured. You take one species and you alter it fully to manufacture this other one. But the problem with that other one is your DNA is a map, not only for a lot of what you are, but it's a map for how you're grown. It tells the body how to structure itself and how to build itself from nothing, practically. It says, okay, you have these nutrients and you make these cells for this long here, that kind of thing. It's a really obviously fucking complicated system. The alicorns don't have the DNA in place that would allow them to reproduce. I mean, where's the mapping for that? It's not evolved. It's not.
Well, let's
understood.
think about it. Most animal hybrids in nature lack the ability to reproduce.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have a way.
Ligers, they can't reproduce.
And so without the goddess, the alicorns now have to suffer the realization that they cannot.
They're the last of themselves.
They're the last of themselves. They can't continue on progeny. And so they're like, well, what do we do? And Red Eye's like, I can help you. I can give you a way to reproduce. And
even though we know he wants to become an alicorn.
But we know for a fact he can't fucking do it.
Right.
There's no, it's a full-blown lie. There's no way he could be able to accomplish that because, like I said, like you said, like evolution says, hybridized animals can't reproduce correctly. So even if you could get 1% of them to reproduce, that is not viable for continuing a populace.
Yeah.
At all.
Not at all. Yeah.
So let's see. kkat said, fun side note, this chapter was the first released on Halloween 2011. So the monsters and spookins. Well, I know that, but you don't, kkat, don't tell him that. Shh.
Remember, we have audio listeners when you say things like that.
I know, but I'm not telling you. I'm not telling them because I don't want to tell you. Okay, so the gang eventually does come across an area where they see some flowers that are glowing green.
Mm-hmm.
This luminescent green.
And there's no killing joke here.
No. And they're like, what the hell's this? And they're like, I don't know. And then the albino hellhound says, yeah, it's these plants are magical. They feed off the same psychic energy as the killing joke, so the killing joke can't get near them, otherwise they'll die off. And everybody's like, wow, that's really what you're talking?
A talking dog. And
Well,
not just talking coherently.
Yeah, don't we need that child movie narrator? Now, coming this summer, a talking dog.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, God. Oh, it hurts. Okay. So of course they have some little banter going back and forth.
Life Bloom gets sprayed in the face with some spores, and he casts an expulsion spell on himself, to say in the least.
Yeah, so it just he's just sitting there like mucus CS
mucus
gas
pouring out and vomiting.
I can imagine if he was stuck in a room with CS gas for like 5 minutes, that's what he looks like. Just ugh.
Don't mind me.
I'm just dying.
It's an ipecac spell.
But as they go through this area, they find a hut, some kind of weird gnarled tree that has a hollowed center, then the door, and make their way inside and start looking around at everything there.
But see, isn't this Zikora's home?
Yes.
I was gonna say, we've talked about her all along, that she's got a place in Everfree Forest.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they come across it,
I'm not going to admit that Robert read the next chapter before he should have.
No, well, I mean, that's got to be what it is.
I know.
That's got to be what it is. In the game we played for Halloween.
Yeah.
Zikora has a hut in Everfree Forest.
So it's not a surprise.
There's no accidents in this story. We keep coming across shit from the show.
Okay, so they're looking around and they do see a chest with some goodies from Vault Tech that actually has some things from the sisters, the Castle of the Two Sisters, which is the ancient castle that Celestia and Luna once presided within before the fall of Night Maroon.
Yeah, great place to build your castle.
Well, initially, I guess it meant something else completely. It's just over 1,000 years, shit changes.
Yeah, so, I guess they have been around for a while.
Yeah. Wasn't that going off topic? You remember Knights of the Old Republic, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the canon for that universe, for Star Wars, Tatooine used to be a forest planet, and Kashyyyk used to be a desert planet. And the species and the race there used to be this old ancient race that actually went across and started screwing with things, and they turned Tatooine into a desert planet and Kashyyyk into a forest planet. Pretty much inverted both biomes. So
sucks to be Tatooine.
Sucks to be Tatooine. Well, it didn't then, because at that time they were still doing the mining craze, so there was money everywhere.
Yeah.
And they realized it was all surface deep, and they're like, "Fuck this."
Bye.
Yep.
Now we're gonna head to Jakku. Sorry, I meant Tatooine too.
Thank you. That's much better. So Pip actually does recount a way to save the Flutter Tree from imminent,
but not really.
But there's a path.
I was going to say, doesn't know exactly how to do it. And really, they need Zenith to be able to do it. Who, by the way, is completely non-responsive.
Oh, yeah. And at one time, Lifebloom was like, look, do you want to save her or not? Because we're going to have to make this decision whether or not we're going to save her. Similar to, what was his name? The one manual laborer from Fallout 3 when you're going through the tunnels. And the guy has the heart problem.
Oh, right. No, I don't remember that character.
And I totally ditched him because I just didn't give a shit.
Yeah. With Dr. Wong?
Dr. Lee.
Dr.
Madison Lee.
That's right.
But the
one of those racist names.
Yes.
Wong, Lee,
Something Wong.
Oh, no. And demonetized. That's the cute thing. We don't have ads turned on.
Hey,
you're welcome.
So if you see ads on here, you can contact YouTube and tell them either stop that shit or you'll turn into a Iranian vegan bodybuilder.
No, if we really want YouTube to get rid of us, I just hold a gun up on screen.
YouTube takes down gun channel takes down YouTube.
That's awful. That's
awful.
It
is
It's
awful.
a little too spicy for a Sunday afternoon.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting going back to the connections between those two characters.
Oh, the other thing is that with essentially Zenith is dealing with tremendous swelling in her skull.
Yeah, and there's only one of two options, and Lifebloom chooses the better of the two options, where the other option is that your brain actually extends down and pushes out the bottom of your skull. When you do that, you die.
Yeah,
you're just dead. So what he does is he actually liquefies part of her skull, and it starts swelling outwards, which is
it gives a place for the
brain to go,
the swelling to escape.
Yeah, and which is still. Oh, that is not pleasant.
Yeah,
it ain't pleasant.
But he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, he doesn't. Not great. So, and we end this chapter after dealing with all this in the cottage with Calamity staring out the window, going, "Guys, you should come look at this," which is terrible cliche.
Yeah.
Terrible cliche.
We didn't even really mention the fires in this chapter.
I did fleetingly. Yeah, there's the fires.
Well, I mean, it's oppressive the entire time. The smoke, the heat, it's awful.
And it's sucking the oxygen. I mean, it just, you just can't breathe. You can't do anything. So,
no. Calamity's also badly burned from his battle.
Oh, yeah. And he's very, very wounded. Everybody's very wounded. Everybody's very hurt.
You kind of become numb to it.
Yeah.
Not them, me as a reader. It's like, well, I mean.
Yeah. I think that was maybe part of the reason that that reading through this, I don't want to gloss over it. Like while I'm reading it, I don't want to just start skimming, but this chapter is really bad for it because it's so much. It's good. It's just, there's a lot. So this one I've skimmed through a few times when I read it.
All right. Well, that was chapter 42.
That was chapter 42. Yes. And so I guess we don't have anything to do now, do we? Not a thing?
Nothing?
No, I don't think so.
I seem to remember there being something.
No, you're wrong.
What was that?
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
Never happened.
I remembered.
Oh, no.
It's the pony pun of the week!
Your favorite time of the show?
Yes. So, the pony pun of the week for this week is user error. User error.
When one fails to properly shear a sheep. User error.
By the way, are there sheep in the My Little Pony world? Have they been on the show?
They're goats. I feel like they're sheep. I don't remember them.
Yeah, they have to show up somewhere.
Yeah. So, would you like to get to our first question?
Yes. Our first question comes from Omega, who says, what effect do you think Poison Joke / Killing Joke would have on Little Pip? Probably send her back to the stable.
Oh, that would be awful.
She just warped there.
Oh, if it was really omnipotent, it would
or worse, she'd be there and her mom would be sober.
Well, they're all out of stable now, remember?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
they get, no, they would be,
Actually, going back to that stable would
the
be
most
bad.
terrible thing that it could do, the most evil thing that it could do, is it could send her back to the stable with all of her memories and lock the door to where she can't open it.
That'd be pretty bad.
There's a movie on this, and there's an episode of The Twilight Zone, which deals with a World War II, a U-boat captain who's eternally caught in a nightmare in hell that he kind of devised himself, where he came upon this merchant vessel in the night as a U-boat captain and told them, search the ship for anything, and then decided to kill everyone on board and sink the ship. And he has to eternally live that night out for the rest of existence as a passenger on that ship. And he starts out not remembering anything and then slowly getting his memory back until he finally figures out what's going on and tries to yell at everyone, please, no, stop, don't do this, but they kill him anyway. Yeah. And he has to live that out for an eternity as a penance for what he'd done. And so that's what that reminds me of, is her having to suffer through knowing everything that's going to happen and not being able to change it.
Smliff asks that he says, hey, I have a question. Are you going to do the rest of the Foally of Man episodes live?
Probably so.
At this point, probably. You may have noticed that there's been pockets where weeks we haven't been able to do an episode. Quite frankly, it's come down to time. And so neither Chris nor I have necessarily had time during the week to edit an episode. And I know you're probably thinking, well, it doesn't take much to edit an episode, but we both have busy jobs and I've got a baby on the way. So it does eat up quite a bit of time to go into the editing booth. So it's just quite frankly easier to do this. And of course, I still have to edit the audio and get the audio podcast up. So if you don't like the live, always check out the audio podcast. You don't have to look at our ugly mugs.
Yeah. So. Now for as I said before, we are definitely going to be doing a live, even if we were to change the format slightly before, we are going to be doing a live last episode. And how it'll probably work, I imagine, is we're going to have you read the chapter directly before we start recording, or like you finish it as we're recording, because I want it to be very fresh.
Yeah. I also wanted to introduce, we'll do some more questions, but we have a new segment to the show this week.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, I do. And I like to call it the Fall at Equestria MVP of the week.
MVP.
The most valuable pony. And the inaugural. Way
to screw that up.
The inoperable. The inaugural most valuable pony for this week in chapter 42 is Life Bloom, for being that extra dose of magic at any time that we needed it. In fact, against the
also a really cool head. Yeah. He's
so calm for somebody who's lived in Tin Pony Tower.
Well, he kind of explains he used to be out dealing with shit that none of them had ever seen. So imagine being in Velvet Remedy's shoes, not as a pacifist, for probably a decade.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. But anyways, think about it. He doesn't lose his calm when they're dealing with the albino hellhound. He puts on his invisibility cloak, disappears, and he's even like near the explosion. They're really concerned about him. He just shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm fine.
No, I just topped out of the hole the hellhound came out of.
He's got healing spells, Yeah. I mean, like he's op.
Yeah, op as shit.
Yeah. So it's nice
to have a good healer.
Nice to have him as a part of the party. The magic users just help. Anybody who's played D&D, it never hurts to have somebody else who can throw a few spells.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have to be a wizard, maybe a cleric, maybe a paladin.
Maybe a bard.
Yeah. Take your pick. Yeah, bards are great.
Yeah. Life Bloom for best heal slot.
There you go. Most valuable pony. Do we have any other questions?
I do not think so. Unless anybody has any more questions here. I'm trying to get through these. I don't see any directly. Well,
that's fine. If there's no other questions, that's fine. So thank you for tuning in, watching us. If you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to check out the podcast at foallyofman.libsyn.com. You can also download the podcast through Google Play, through the iTunes Music Store. If you are listening to us, please check out the YouTube channel. There's lots of other good content there at youtube.com/Chrisco brand biscuits. You can also email us at cbpbch@gmail.com. Again, that is cbpbch@gmail.com. And last but certainly not least, if you are a Twitter user, I'm actually getting on there a lot more lately. You can find us on Twitter at CriscoCast. ChriscoCast. CriscoCast. I think that's about it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
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 Wow. So, until next time, hopefully next weekend, we shall see you then.
Thanks for tuning in. For Chris, I'm Robert. We'll see you next week.